Why most people never become great. There's a reason most people never reach greatness, a reason they live far beneath their potential, stuck in loops, addicted to ease, constantly chasing shortcuts. It's because the hard path, the one that demands more from you, the one that tests your endurance, your discipline, and your will, that path looks painful. That path looks uncertain. That path looks lonely. And it is. But it's also the path where real power is born. Doing what's hard isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's the process that forges every quality needed to become unstoppable. Grit, focus, mental toughness, patience, resilience. These traits are not inherited, they are earned. And they are only built through adversity, through walking straight into discomfort, through choosing what's hard when everything in you wants to quit. Most people never choose that road. They live by their feelings. They act only when it's easy. They show up only when it's convenient. They let their mood dictate their moves instead of letting their mission guide their actions. They look for the smoothest path, and in doing so, they create a life of minimal challenge and minimal reward. Not because they lack talent or potential, but because they never train themselves to endure difficulty. But there are a few, rare individuals who intentionally choose the hard way. Not because they enjoy pain, but because they understand what lies beyond it. They step into challenge on purpose. They seek out resistance. They chase growth, not comfort. And because of that, they become dangerous, not to others, but to their own limitations. These people become unstoppable. They don't fold under pressure. They don't flinch when it gets uncomfortable. They don't wait to feel ready. They move anyway. That kind of strength is not reserved for the elite. It's available to anyone. It becomes yours the moment you stop running. The moment you decide that the hard road is the only road that leads to the life you truly want. Because the hard road builds different. It doesn't just sharpen your skills, it transforms your identity. You stop being someone who merely tries and start being someone who commits. You stop talking about potential and start producing results. You stop needing perfect conditions and start showing up regardless. This journey is not about perfection. It's about pursuit. It's about chasing growth with such fierce intention that ease begins to bore you. That comfort becomes a warning sign. That resistance becomes a signal to lean in, not pull away. Every time you choose the harder path, you get stronger, sharper, wiser, hungrier. And that transformation, that inner shift, is what makes you dangerous. Because once you've trained yourself to keep going, no obstacle can stop you. Not your past, not your fear, not your current circumstances. You've learned to rise when staying down would be easier. You've made the decision that who you become matters more than how you feel in the moment. And once that becomes who you are, everything in your life begins to change. Not because the world shifts, but because you do. You stop negotiating with your limits. You stop searching for shortcuts. You stop needing the easy way because you've become someone who doesn't require it. Doing what's hard changes you because it forces you to face the truth about your habits, your patterns, your priorities, the truth about what you've been tolerating. And most people avoid the hard path precisely because they don't want to face that truth. They'd rather stay comfortable than confront their own limitations. They'd rather stay numb than feel exposed. But the life you want, the growth, the greatness, the fulfillment, is only found on the other side of that truth. And the only way there is through the hard. Why doing what's hard changes everything, Part 2. But the truth has a way of showing up, whether you invite it or not. And when you choose hard things, you choose to meet that truth on your terms. You step into discomfort willingly. You stop running from your limits and start refining what's within you. You begin taking full ownership of your growth. Because on the other side of resistance is clarity. On the other side of struggle is strength. On the other side of discomfort is a new version of you, one that only reveals itself under pressure. No one becomes great by avoiding adversity. No one becomes powerful by dodging pressure. No one becomes elite by coasting. Greatness is not found in ease. It's forged in the fire, in the dark, in the grind, in the quiet refusal to quit. It's not just about talent. It's not just about intelligence. It's about being relentless, about doing what's required, especially when everything in you wants to do what's easy. This is the first real separation. Most people don't want to suffer. They want progress without pressure, growth without effort, confidence without action. But it doesn't work that way. Self-respect is earned through repetition. Belief is built through proof, the daily proof that you're the kind of person who shows up even when it's hard. That's where real confidence comes from. Not from compliments, not from temporary highs, but from discipline, from sacrifice, from showing up day after day until the voice of doubt fades and the voice of certainty rises. At first, it's difficult because your identity is still shifting. You still remember the old version of yourself, the one who gave up, who made excuses, who negotiated with pain. And every time you step into something difficult, that version whispers, "This is too much. You're not ready. This isn't working." But if you keep going anyway, something changes. You stop listening to that voice. You stop hesitating. You stop entertaining the past. And the longer you hold the line, the more distance you create between who you were and who you're becoming. You build evidence, you build experience, you build a new standard. Eventually, you stop needing motivation, you stop needing permission, you stop needing to feel good to follow through. You just show up, you just execute. Because now, doing hard things isn't something you dread, it's something you expect. It's what you were built for. And that shift, that change in expectation, is everything. Most people approach challenge with resistance. They delay, they stall, they dread it. Even when they show up, they're half in, half out, still hoping it gets easier, still negotiating with pressure. But you train differently. You run toward resistance. You stop seeing effort as punishment. You stop seeing pressure as something to avoid. You stop viewing discomfort as danger. That begins with awareness. You start to catch yourself pulling away. You notice when you're shrinking. You interrupt the reflex to reach for comfort. You pause, you breathe, you remind yourself, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This tension, it's working. This pain, it's building me. This pressure, it's shaping me. You stop escaping and you start leaning in. Because you've chosen a different life now. You've decided that success isn't about being comfortable, it's about being capable. And the only way to grow your capacity is to carry more weight. Not once, not when you feel like it, every single day. That's what separates the unstoppable from the inconsistent. They do hard things on purpose, not just when life forces them, not just when there's no other choice, but because they train for pressure. They understand that staying sharp requires friction, and they stop waiting for permission to feel uncomfortable. You want to become someone who can be trusted under pressure? Someone who holds the line when it matters most? Then start doing hard things when no one's watching. Train for it, build it, stack it. Prove to yourself that you can suffer intentionally and grow stronger through it. You stop resenting the process. You start respecting it. You begin seeking it. Because you understand, every rep, every setback, every delay, every rejection, it's just more weight on the bar. And the more weight you move, the stronger you get. That's how your life changes. Not because the world gets easier, but because you get tougher. You get sharper. You get grounded. You stop falling apart when things get hard. You stop folding when you're tired. You stop crumbling when life isn't fair. You rise. You adapt. You endure. Because you've trained for it. And when you choose to do what is hard, not once but daily, you retrain your nervous system. You teach your brain that pressure isn't a threat. Resistance isn't danger. It's growth. And the longer you stay in that space, the more natural it becomes. What once overwhelmed you now fuels you. What once scared you now sharpens you. What once broke you now builds you. But that transition isn't automatic. It's intentional. It's engineered. You have to create your own friction. You have to schedule discomfort into your life. Because if you don't build hard things into your day, life will eventually bring hard things into your life, and you'll be unprepared. And when that happens, the ones who've been practicing pressure, they win. The ones who trained in peace, they perform in chaos. This is where structure becomes your advantage. Doing hard things isn't about living in disorder. It's about building a system where challenge is part of the rhythm, woven into your morning, your routine, your non-negotiables. You don't wake up wondering if today will be hard. You expect it. And because you expect it, you prepare for it. You don't fear the fight. You train for it. You build your own battlefield. You build discipline into your day. You define your non-negotiables, physically, mentally, emotionally, and you hit them. Not when it's convenient, especially when it's not, because that's when the reps matter most. You move your body, you control your inputs, you protect your focus, you limit distractions, you reflect, you face your blind spots, you ask better questions, you stop avoiding yourself. Not because it's fun, but because it's necessary. You've chosen to live as a builder, not a bystander, a creator, not a complainer. And over time, people start to notice something different in you. You're calmer under pressure. You're steady when others shake. You don't overreact. You don't explain. You don't fold. It's not because you don't feel pain, it's because you've trained through it. You've lived in the fire long enough that the heat doesn't faze you anymore. That kind of presence, it's rare. That kind of composure, it's earned. And it's only earned by those who choose to suffer when they don't have to. Those who go the extra mile when no one's keeping score. Those who sit in the silence, say no to distraction, get up early, stay late, and go again, when most would quit. That's the work that matters. Not the flashy moments, but the quiet ones. The hidden reps that build an unshakable life. The moments that matter most, they're not the ones that show up on social media. They're not the ones that earn applause or likes. They're the quiet reps, the ones only you know about. Because it's in those silent, unseen moments where your character is either reinforced or eroded, where you either whisper to yourself, "This is who I am," or "This is too hard." And over time, those moments stack. They shape you. They become your foundation. You don't need to fake confidence anymore, because now it's not ego, it's earned. It's not hype, it's history. It's not theory, it's practice. You know who you are because you've paid the price to become that person. That's when you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you've stopped needing it to be. You've accepted that the hard path is the only one worth walking. You've stopped asking, "When will this get easier?" and started asking, "How far can I go?" Now you're not doing hard things just to tick boxes. You're doing them because they're transforming you. They're building something inside you that nothing else can. The ability to lead yourself. And that's the next level. Because you cannot lead others until you first mastered yourself. You cannot demand discipline from anyone until you've earned it in private. You cannot preach excellence if you haven't bled for it in the dark. People don't follow noise. They don't follow promises. They follow standards. They follow consistency. And when you become the kind of person who does hard things daily without fanfare, your life begins to speak louder than any words could. Your presence starts changing rooms. Your name begins to carry weight, not because of charisma, but because of credibility. Credibility built in the gym, in the study, on the run, in the cold, in the repetition, in the silence. It's credibility that comes from being battle-tested, and that's something ease can never produce. But here's the most powerful truth of all. The hard path becomes joyful. Not at first, not when your brain is still wired for comfort, but over time, when pain becomes familiar, when resistance becomes expected, when effort becomes your baseline. You stop resisting the fire and start thriving in it, because effort becomes freedom. Discomfort becomes a compass, and pressure becomes the place where you feel most alive. You stop asking, "How do I get out of this?" and start saying, "Let's go deeper." Because you've realized, everything you want lives inside the very thing you've been avoiding. And when you want what others run from, you unlock a life that others will never access. Doing what's hard doesn't just change your outcomes, it rewires your relationship with pressure. Because pressure doesn't go away. No matter how much you grow, no matter how skilled you become, no matter how successful you are, pressure scales with you. The problems get bigger, the stakes get higher, the decisions get heavier, and if you haven't trained to stay calm under that weight, it will crush you. But when you choose hard things daily, when you voluntarily put yourself under pressure, you stop fearing it. You start using it. You learn to breathe through it. You learn to think inside it. You learn to lead in the middle of it. That becomes one of your greatest advantages. Because people follow strength, not noise, not hype, not reaction. They follow the one who moves with certainty when the path is uncertain, the one who doesn't flinch when the pressure spikes, the one who keeps their head when others panic. And that's who you become. You stop seeing adversity as something to survive. You start seeing it as something to master, because your system has been conditioned to operate under load. You don't need calm to execute. You don't need perfect conditions to stay focused. You don't need motivation to stay consistent. You've trained to be dangerous regardless of the environment. That kind of internal conditioning, it's what separates people at the highest level. Because success isn't about who shines when life is smooth. It's about who rises when life breaks, who leads when the plan collapses, who executes when emotions explode. That composure, it's rare, but it's trainable. You train it by leaning into friction, by saying the hard thing when silence would be easier, by facing the truth when the lie feels safer. Because truth isn't always comfortable, but it's always required. And the more you live by truth, the more strength you build. Not just physical strength, but mental strength, emotional strength, spiritual strength. The kind of strength that does not fold, that holds the line, that does the work, no matter what. Most people don't lack talent. They lack emotional endurance. They haven't trained themselves to stand strong when emotions spike. So when stress hits, they panic. When it gets heavy, they vanish. But the ones who have trained for pressure, they thrive. They think clearly while others freeze. They stay consistent while others crack. They make decisions under fire. That's not luck. That's not genetics. That's training. And that training comes from the small, daily choices. You do the reps, not just in the gym, but in your life. You face resistance, you delay gratification, you have hard conversations, you stretch your limits, you stop avoiding what's uncomfortable and start using it. Because pressure isn't something you manage, it's something you leverage. You lean into it, you build inside it. And over time, your identity shifts. You stop hoping you can handle pressure and start knowing you were built for it. That shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Because once you believe you're built for pressure, you stop resisting it. You stop doubting yourself. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You start saying, this is where I do my best work. And when that becomes your baseline, life doesn't need to get easier. You get stronger. Your resilience deepens. Your bounce back gets faster. Your tolerance for discomfort expands. Your emotional bandwidth increases. Now, the things that used to break you, they don't even faze you. And people will notice. Not because you're loud, but because you're solid. You don't overreact. You don't explain. You just execute. That calm presence, that quiet power, it's not luck. It's not personality. It's earned. Earned through years of facing pressure and refusing to fold. That strength, it travels with you into every meeting, every conversation, every challenge, every storm. And that's what makes you different. Not louder, not flashier, just stronger. Part 4, build or break, how pressure defines you. Pressure doesn't just test you, it defines you. It reveals whether you've been building strength or borrowing it. Whether you've built habits or built hype. Whether your foundation is stable or surface level. Because when the pressure hits, when it's real, when it's sudden, when it's heavier than expected, you either break or you build. And in that moment, no one cares what you meant to do. No one cares how much potential you had. What matters is what's real, what's trained, what's proven. Pressure doesn't negotiate. It doesn't pause. It doesn't lower itself to your level. You rise to meet it, or you get buried by it. And this is what separates those who grow from those who crumble. Pressure is not the problem. Unpreparedness is. Because pressure will find the cracks. It will expose what's been ignored. It will test the work you've been doing or the work you've been avoiding. And that's why most people fold. Not because they're weak by nature, but because they never chose to get strong. They skipped the reps when it didn't feel urgent. They avoided the discomfort when no one was watching. They waited for motivation instead of creating momentum. And when life turned up the heat, they melted. But not you. Not anymore. Because you've made a different decision. You've stopped waiting for pressure to arrive. You train under it. You welcome it. You use it. You understand that pressure is not the enemy. It's the proving ground. It doesn't break you when you've been building underneath the surface. Because strength is never built in the spotlight. It's built when no one's clapping, when no one's checking, when it's just you, your standard, and the weight. And when you've trained that way consistently, pressure doesn't paralyze you. It activates you. It's a switch that flips something in you. Not fear, not panic, but presence, precision, power. You breathe deeper, you slow down, you focus, because now you've rewired your system to respond, not react. Most people default to emotion under pressure. They let anxiety drive their decisions. They rush, they overthink, they try to control everything except themselves. But when you've trained intentionally, when pressure has become part of your process, you don't collapse, you conquer. And that mindset, it becomes your edge in everything. In business, in sport, in leadership, in relationships, in life. Because pressure doesn't just live on the battlefield, it lives in the boardroom. It lives in the hospital room, in the championship moment, in the financial crisis, in the midnight phone call that changes everything. You don't get to choose when the pressure comes, but you can choose to be ready for it. Because here's the truth, pressure doesn't build character, it reveals it. But if you've trained well, what it reveals will be bulletproof. It will show that you've done the work, that you've faced yourself, that you've developed not just strength, but stability. And stability is power. When everyone else is scrambling, you are steady. When others crack, you carry. Because your identity is no longer fragile, it's forged. You're not someone hoping you can handle life. You know you can. You've tested it, you've felt the weight, you've carried it, and you've come out stronger every time. That's what pressure gives you, if you let it, if you lean into it, if you choose it on your own terms. But the moment you stop choosing it, the moment you retreat into ease, you begin to drift, you begin to weaken. Because pressure doesn't go away. And when it shows up again as it always does, the only question will be, did you build for this, or did you bluff your way here? There is no pretending under pressure. There's only preparation. There's only presence. There's only power, or the lack of it. That's why you keep showing up. That's why you train daily. That's why you don't flinch when it's hard. That's why you stay disciplined when it's boring. That's why you stop relying on adrenaline and start relying on identity. Because pressure doesn't care what you say, it cares who you are. And who you are under pressure is who you really are. So build wisely, live intentionally, train relentlessly. Because when the pressure comes, and it will, you won't need to rise to the occasion. You'll simply rise to the level you've built. Part 5, the standard you set when no one's watching. The real work begins when no one's watching, not when the lights are on, not when the cameras are rolling, not when the applause is loud. The standard that shapes your life is set in silence. It's built in those moments when skipping the reps would be easy, when no one's checking, when the results won't show tomorrow, when it doesn't feel urgent, when quitting wouldn't cost you anything except who you become. That's where the separation happens. Most people live by external accountability. They perform when there's pressure from outside, deadlines, coaches, bosses, expectations. But the rare ones, the elite, they are driven by internal accountability. They don't need reminders. They don't need supervision. They don't need applause to keep moving. They've made a decision to live by standard, not feeling. And that standard, it's sacred. Because once you set a standard for yourself, your life begins to transform. Not instantly, but consistently, brick by brick, rep by rep, choice by choice. And the more you honor it, the stronger it becomes. It becomes your rhythm, your edge, your identity. But the moment you start negotiating with it, when you say, just this once, or no one will know, or it doesn't matter today, you don't just lower your actions, you lower your identity. You train yourself to become someone who talks big but moves small, who makes promises but breaks them in private, who shows up in public but shrinks in solitude. And that gap between who you say you are and who you actually are, that's where insecurity lives. That's why people who look confident on the outside often feel empty inside. Because deep down, they know they're not keeping the standard. They know their credibility is hollow, and no amount of praise can fill the void of personal inconsistency. But when you honor your standard in the dark, when you do the work when no one's clapping, when you execute with excellence without needing reward, that's where real confidence is born. Not the kind that needs a stage, not the kind that crumbles under pressure, but the kind that walks in silence and carries weight. Because you're no longer trying to convince the world, you're just being it. You become someone whose actions speak before you do. Someone who doesn't perform for approval, but moves from alignment. Someone who doesn't seek validation, but embodies truth. That kind of standard makes you powerful, because now your trust in yourself is earned. You know you'll show up. You know you'll follow through. You know you'll do it even when it's hard. That kind of trust changes everything, because now you stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop needing the perfect conditions. You stop waiting to feel ready. You act, you lead, you build. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. The person you become when no one's watching is the person the world will eventually see. It might not be today, it might not be this year, but the truth always shows up. And when it does, when the storm comes, when the test arrives, when the weight gets heavy, you either rise with quiet strength or collapse with loud excuses, because your private choices always become your public results. So you train your standard like it's sacred. You treat your word like law. You stop waiting for someone to push you, and you become the one who pushes. Because you are the difference now. You are the system. You are the structure. You are the force behind your own transformation. And that's where real freedom begins. Not in ease, not in leisure, not in comfort, but in commitment. When you choose to do the hard thing, not once, but every day. When you say, "This is who I am," no matter who's watching. You take full ownership of your life. You're no longer a prisoner to motivation. You're no longer a puppet to emotion. You are anchored in discipline. You are grounded in identity. That's the difference between momentary success and lasting greatness. Because eventually, everyone faces the test. And when that day comes, the question isn't, are you good enough? The question is, did you build the standard in the dark? Part 6, discipline is the shortcut. Everyone's looking for a shortcut. A faster way, a magic formula, a hack to skip the hard parts and still get the prize. But the real shortcut, the one that actually works, it's called discipline. It's not glamorous, it's not trending, but it's the only proven path to sustained excellence. Discipline is the great separator, not talent, not opportunity, not even intelligence, because talent without discipline is wasted. Opportunity without discipline is squandered. Intelligence without discipline is distracted. Discipline is what turns potential into power. It's the decision to keep going when the emotion fades, to follow through when the mood changes, to stick to the plan when comfort tries to convince you otherwise. And here's the truth. Discipline is not about punishment. It's about freedom. The freedom to wake up and know exactly what to do. The freedom to trust yourself. The freedom to move with purpose instead of being tossed around by your feelings, because feelings are fleeting. Motivation is unstable. But discipline, that's steady, that's solid, that's scalable. You don't need to feel amazing to show up. You don't need to feel ready to execute. You just honor the standard. You do the work. Period. That's why discipline is misunderstood. People think it's the hard way. But what's actually hard is inconsistency. What's actually hard is starting over. What's hard is waking up every day unsure of who you are and what you're about. Discipline solves all of that. It's the quiet commitment to a better life, one decision at a time. It's the invisible force behind confidence, behind momentum, behind mastery. Because the truth is, you're always building something. Every time you follow your feelings, you reinforce weakness. Every time you follow your standard, you reinforce strength. So the question is never, will I build today? The question is, what am I building? Discipline says, you build it now. You don't wait for motivation. You don't hope for inspiration. You move anyway, because every disciplined action you take is a deposit in your body, in your mind, in your identity. And over time, those deposits turn into dividends, not just in results, but in who you become. That's the ultimate ROI of discipline. You stop being the person who needs hype. You become the person who creates momentum. You stop being reactive. You start being relentless. And when other people break, you repeat. When others coast, you lock in. When others wait for the mood, you move with mission. That's what discipline does. It frees you from the ups and downs. It gives you peace in chaos, clarity in pressure, power in uncertainty. Because now, you're not ruled by your environment. You're not at the mercy of your calendar, your phone, your cravings, or your fears. You are grounded, directed, certain, and that certainty compounds. You start moving faster, Not because you're rushing, but because you've eliminated all the nonsense. You're not wasting energy on indecision. You're not burning time on distractions. You're not chasing the newest trick. You already know what works, and you do it. That's the real shortcut. Discipline is what gets you there faster, not easier, faster. Because every undisciplined moment creates delay. Every excuse adds friction. Every skipped rep becomes a cost that shows up later. You want momentum? Build discipline. You want freedom? Build discipline. You want clarity? Confidence? Strength? Leadership? It all flows from discipline, because the disciplined person doesn't need 100 plans. They just need one executed with consistency. They don't need constant motivation. They've already made the decision. They don't need to be told what to do. They already wrote it down and started doing it. And that's the person you're becoming. Not the one who needs help starting, but the one who never stopped. Not the one who waits for the right day, but the one who makes every day the right day. Not the one who reacts to pressure, but the one who trains under it. So if you're tired of starting over, if you're done chasing hacks, if you're ready to actually close the gap between who you are and who you could be, then make this the moment. Choose discipline. Choose the reps. Choose the boring. Choose the uncomfortable. Choose the daily work no one sees, because that's the work that changes everything. Discipline is not the long way. It's the direct way, the cleanest path, the clearest edge. It's the only real shortcut that exists. Part 7, your identity is built in the reps. You don't become who you are by thinking about it. You become who you are by repeating it. Identity isn't something you discover. It's something you build. It's not found in your personality. It's forged in your patterns. Every action you take, every decision you make, every rep you do or don't do, it's casting a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Want to become disciplined? Do the disciplined rep. Want to become mentally strong? Do the rep when it's inconvenient. Want to become someone who finishes what they start? Do the rep when the excitement fades and no one's watching. Because repetition is not just about improvement, it's about identity alignment. Each rep you complete isn't just making you better at the task, it's reinforcing your internal belief system. This is who I am now. And that belief, it becomes a filter for everything. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop tolerating inconsistency. You stop needing to feel ready because your actions have confirmed something deeper than motivation ever could. You're built for this. That's the power of repetition. It reprograms your self-image. It rewires how you see yourself. You're not a wannabe anymore. You're not an imposter hoping to be taken seriously. You are the thing because you've lived the reps. It's no longer, I hope I can. It's, I've proven I can. I've done it again and again. And yet, this is where most people fall off. They think identity is found in inspiration. They chase books, podcasts, motivation, aesthetics. They chase feelings, not reps. But your identity isn't built by how you feel. It's built by what you do. You want to stop being someone who quits? Stop quitting. You want to stop being someone who hesitates? Start acting. You want to stop being someone who overthinks? Start moving. The solution isn't in the mirror. It's in the moments. The moment you say yes when you want to say no. The moment you stay focused when your phone calls for you. The moment you push through the extra set, the extra hour, the extra mile when no one asked you to. That's where identity is forged. And here's the thing no one wants to admit. The reps aren't always exciting. Most of them are boring. They feel invisible, insignificant, forgettable. But they're not. Because repetition compounds. Every disciplined decision today, every focused hour, every honest moment where you refuse to break your standard, those add up. They become your evidence. They become your edge. And over time, the gap between who you used to be and who you are now becomes undeniable. The old you, the one who made excuses, who skipped the work, who broke promises, that version fades. And the new you? They don't need hype. They don't need pressure. They don't need an audience. They just live the reps. They wake up and train. They focus and execute. They lead themselves regardless of the weather, the mood, the circumstances. Because identity isn't an Instagram bio. It's not a label. It's not a vibe. It's a lifestyle. And that lifestyle is built when you realize the reps you do in private eventually shape the way you walk in public. You stand different, you move different, You lead different because you've done the work, because you've trained your identity into existence. So stop searching. Stop waiting to become someone. You're already becoming. You're just becoming whatever you repeat. So choose wisely, live deliberately, repeat with intention. And know this, your future identity is being formed by today's reps. Stack enough of the right ones, and you'll never have to wonder who you are again. You'll know, because you earned it, because you built it, because you lived it. Part 8, the day you don't want to do it counts the most. It's easy to show up when you're motivated, when the energy is high, when everything feels aligned, when the plan is exciting and the vision is fresh. But that's not the day that defines you. The day that defines you is the one when you don't want to do it. When you're tired, when you're overwhelmed, when no one's watching, when no one would blame you for backing off. That's the day that matters most. That's the day that separates the committed from the casual, the builders from the dreamers, the ones who get results from the ones who make excuses. Because anyone can act when it's easy. But who are you when it's hard? Who are you when your body aches and your mind resists? Who are you when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, and quiet? That's when the real reps happen. The ones that don't go on social media. The ones no one will ever clap for. The ones that feel small in the moment but massive in the outcome. Because here's the truth. The days you don't want to do it are the days that build everything. They build grit. They build trust. They build identity. They build respect. Not from others, but from yourself. And that self-respect, that's the fuel that doesn't run out. When you choose to do the work on the day you'd rather quit, you send a signal. This is who I am now. I don't just move when I feel like it. I move because it's what I do. That decision, that one act of follow-through carries weight. Not just today, but tomorrow. It stacks, it compounds, it changes you. Because every time you show up on a hard day, you rewrite your story. You prove to yourself that your feelings don't own you. Your fatigue doesn't lead you. Your emotions don't get the final say. And over time, that becomes your baseline. You become someone who doesn't fold, someone who doesn't flinch, someone who shows up, especially when it's hard. Because you know something the average person doesn't. The rep on the hard day is worth more than 10 reps on the easy day. It's heavier, it's harder, but it's also more valuable. It builds more strength, more belief, more resilience than anything comfort could ever give you. You want to be proud of yourself? You want to become someone who walks with confidence and speaks with clarity? Then earn it. On the day you don't want to do it, push through the fog, show up in the fatigue, follow through when it would be easier to flake. Not because it feels good, because it builds good. You don't chase ease anymore. You chase evidence. The evidence that you can do hard things. The evidence that you're different now. The evidence that this time, you're not going back to your old patterns. And the only way to get that evidence is to show up when it's inconvenient. So when the alarm hits and your mind starts to negotiate, don't justify, don't delay, don't wait for motivation to return. Just move, put your shoes on, open the laptop, pick up the book, lift the weight, speak the truth, write the line, do the thing. That simple act of movement, especially when it's hard, is what rewires your brain. Because now you're no longer reacting to your emotions, you're leading them. And that leadership, that's where power lives. Because now you don't just perform when it's easy, you perform on command. And that kind of consistency, it makes you unstoppable. You stop starting over, you stop relying on hype, you stop needing external pressure. Because you've trained yourself to do the work on the days that count the most. And the day that counts the most is the one where you don't feel like it. So the next time that day comes, don't pull back, don't panic, don't postpone, lean in. Because that resistance you're feeling, that's the door to the next level. And every time you walk through it, you leave the old version of yourself behind. Consistency is a character trait. Consistency isn't a tactic. It's not a productivity trick. It's not a streak on a habit tracker. It's a character trait. It's who you are when no one's watching. It's the choices you make when no one's clapping. It's the discipline you uphold when the novelty wears off. Because the truth is, you don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your consistency. And that's where most people stay stuck. They think the gap between them and their goals is knowledge, or resources, or opportunity. But what they really lack is consistency, not the ability to start, the willingness to stay, to show up, to execute, to follow through, especially when life gets noisy, messy, chaotic, unpredictable. Anyone can be consistent when it's convenient. But when it's not, that's when character is revealed. Because consistency isn't about how many times you begin. It's about how deeply you're rooted. It's what makes your actions non-negotiable. It's what turns "I hope I can" into "I always do." It's what allows you to carry momentum through resistance, fatigue, and adversity. And here's the hard truth. Inconsistency is not a scheduling problem. It's a standards problem. If you only follow through when it feels good, your standard is feelings. If you only show up when the schedule's clear, your standard is convenience. If you only keep going when you see fast results, your standard is comfort. But when consistency becomes your character, none of that controls you anymore. You don't chase results, you chase integrity. You don't work for hype, you work from honor. Because every consistent day is not just a deposit into your goals, it's a message to yourself. This is who I am. And when that identity locks in, everything changes. You don't need reminders. You don't need accountability partners to hold your hand. You don't need motivation to drag you out of bed. You've already decided, this gets done, no matter what. That mindset is rare, but it's powerful. Because now, people don't just trust what you say, they trust what you do. They feel it, they see it, they know that when you commit, you deliver. And that kind of reputation doesn't come from talent. It comes from showing up every single day, in the dark, in the rain, in the silence. When it's thankless, when it's frustrating, when it's hard, that's when the roots go deep. That's when your confidence becomes unshakable, because you're no longer building it on outcomes. You're building it on consistency, on character, on evidence. Because the world rewards the rare ones, the ones who stay the course, who outlast distractions, who don't let emotion dictate effort. Those are the people who rise, not because they're lucky, but because they've made consistency their default mode. So if you want to change your life, don't look for better strategies. Start by raising your standard for consistency, not just for a week, not just when you feel good, but until it becomes who you are. Because once it's who you are, you no longer ask, will I show up? You know you will. That certainty, that's the foundation of success. And it's not built in sprints. It's built in stacked days, ordinary days, boring days, hard days, every day, one rep at a time, 1 hour at a time, one quiet, invisible, powerful decision at a time. So stop waiting to feel consistent. Be consistent. Make it part of your character. Build it into your identity. And live like someone who's done negotiating with their potential. Part 10. Never neglect the basics. Everyone wants to master the advanced techniques. They chase complexity. They obsess over the new. They think the next level is somewhere out there, hidden in a course, a guru, a breakthrough strategy. But the truth? The next level is found in the basics. The real greats don't outgrow fundamentals. They master them. They repeat them. They respect them. Because the basics, done consistently with intensity and intention, are what build unbeatable momentum. Sleep, movement, nutrition, focus, discipline, integrity. These aren't exciting, they're not flashy, but they are foundational. Neglecting the basics is how strong people break. It's how leaders burn out. It's how visionaries lose clarity. Not because they don't have talent or ambition, but because they abandon the core habits that make everything else work. You don't need more complexity. You need to execute the simple things at an elite level. That's what mastery really is. It's not knowing more. It's doing less, but doing it better. Day after day. When it's easy, when it's boring, when it's hard, when no one's cheering. You don't become dangerous by skipping steps. You become dangerous by locking in the non-negotiables so tightly that they become part of you. You sleep like it's sacred. You train like it's required. You eat to fuel, not to escape. You think before you speak. You speak only what you live. And you follow through whether it's popular or not. That's not just personal development. That's personal integrity. Because every time you uphold the basics, you reinforce trust. Trust in your system. Trust in your body. Trust in your identity. And when life throws pressure at you, trust is what holds the line. Not hype, not perfection, not willpower, trust. And you only build that by doing the boring work that most people avoid. So here's the truth no one tells you. Skipping the basics is never faster. It always catches up to you. In your energy, in your mind, in your consistency. If you want to be elite, go deeper into simplicity. Sharpen your fundamentals, perfect your process. Build your day around what actually matters. And what matters? Move your body, protect your mind, fuel with intention, get real rest, reflect and recalibrate, execute your plan, eliminate the noise, own your attitude, honor your word, repeat. Not because you're chasing motivation, because you're building momentum, because you've realized that greatness doesn't come from intensity in short bursts, it comes from consistency in the basics. That's the discipline that most people skip, but it's the discipline that all success is built on. So simplify, refocus, recommit. Don't neglect the basics, because everything extraordinary, every result you want, every goal you're chasing, every version of you that you know exists is built on a foundation of daily decisions that look ordinary. Keep showing up, keep doing the reps, keep honoring your foundation, because that's how you stay grounded. That's how you stay strong. That's how you finish what you start. Not by chasing more, but by mastering what matters. Let me know if you'd like a full ebook version of this 10-part series, a daily audio script set, a journal workbook format, or ideas for visual content, reels, or carousels based on each part.